One of the biggest strengths of flat knitting is the ability to knit panels for garments. This unit, we will discuss about the unique ability of a flat knitting machine to knit ready to assemble panels. We will also examine the advantages of such a technique. By the end of this unit, students will be able to describe what is fashioning, list the advantages of using this techniques. In case of a woven fabric or a circular knitted fabric, the process of converting the fabric into garments are as follows. Spread the fabric on the cutting table, draw the technical patterns of the garment on the top layer of the fabric, cut it with a manual or automated cutting system, then assemble panels to create the garment using appropriate stitching and finishing machines. As we discussed earlier, the moment we cut a knitted fabric, that area must be finished in order to prevent the fabric from unraveling. So we end up using mostly flat lock stitches at the hemline and overlock stitches on the seams. Unlike circular knits or woven fabric, in flat knitting, we can straight away knit the required panels with the required measurements. Let me explain this little more. Suppose we have to make a t-shirt, one in circular knitted fabric and another one with flat knitting. Since the circular knitting is going to produce a tubular fabric, one need to first cut open the side of the tube to make it open with fabric. Next, the technical pattern has to be traced to the fabric and 4 panels have to be cut out of it. One for the front side of the t-shirt, one for the back and 2 for 2 sleeves. Since the side of all panels have to be cut, one has to use either flat lock or overlock to finish the edges. So, the shoulder, side and armhole would be finished with overlock machine and hem of the body and sleeve would be finished with flat lock. A rib would be attached to the neck with overlock. If the same t-shirt is to be produced out of a flat knitting machine, all 4 panels will be knitted separately. Let's look at how to knit the front panel. First, take the maximum width of the panel from the technical pattern. It would be the chest measurement. Let's assume that the chest and bottom measurements are around 20 inches and the shoulder measurement is about 15 inches. We will set the needle bed to knit 20 inches plus 3 veils on either side as the seam allowance, which will go inside the seam while stitching. We usually start knitting with a rib at the hem area for better stability, and once we knit around 1 inch of 1 by 1 or 2 by 2 rib, we will convert the double bed knitting to a single bed knitting by transferring loops from back bed to front bed. Continue knitting till we reach the maximum length of the panel, around 6 to 10 courses to be knitted extra before knitting stopped. Now the bottom of the panel is already finished with a rib and the side of the panel is also finished with the required measurements. But still we need to cut the armhole area, shoulder slope, neck before attaching this panel with the sleeves and the back panels. Same way, we need to knit the back panel and 2 sleeves. Cut and sew it with overlock machine to finish the garment. Apart from knitting the desired width on flat knitting machine, you can also increase loops on either side or decrease loops on either side to do narrowing or widening. Using this technique, you can also shape a panel to match it to the exact measurement and shape of technical pattern. The shaping of knitted panel while knitting is popularly known as fashioning, and fashioning opens up a completely different set of possibilities in apparel design as well as manufacturing. Have a look at this hypothetical scenario. Let's imagine 4 sweaters with the same design, size, material and branding with 4 different price tags. The first one with a price of $999 second one with a price tag of 1599, the third one with a price tag of 1999, and the fourth one with a price tag of 2999. Naturally, we will doubt that there is an error in the tagging. But what if it is not an error and it is the real price? Then what could be the reason for these four setters to be priced differently? You begin by reversing the garments inside out and then spread it on a table and examine it. You now begins to notice that there is a difference in the way seams are formed. The first one has a panel knitted with the exact width plus seam allowance as we discussed earlier. You will notice overlock in armhole, shoulder as well as on the neck. We can call the way the garment is made as cut and sew method. Cut and sew method create thick overlock seams that are pricky to the skin. This method will also create cluttered finish on the seams as when it is overlocked. It is not possible to match loops to loop from two different panels. So the garment finished and cut and sew method will have the least finish and comfort, and this results in it being the cheapest of all. Let's look at the second sweater. You notice that at the armhole there is no overlocking. On closer inspection, you will notice that there is a chain stitch with the same yarn used for knitting. The seams look cleaner and much softer. What you see is actually a linked seam, but when you reach the shoulder and neck, it is still overlocked as those areas are cut to make the shape. The panel is shaped at armhole as per the technical pattern, and since it is not cut, overlock stitch was not required. Hence the linked seam at the armhole. How is the shaping done at the armhole? Let's plot the technical pattern and see how many courses and veils required to create the area from bottom of the pattern till armpit. Above armpit, the width is getting reduced to shape the armhole. This shaping is achieved during knitting by moving loops from both ends of panel towards the center of the panel knitted. Once the needles from both ends are freed of loops, then they can be switched off from knitting. This enables you to get the required armhole shape while knitting as shown in the diagram. Now cut the shoulder slope, cut the neckline and then attach all the panels together to make the garment. Since the shaping is done only at armhole, this is known as semi-fashioned garment or more popularly semi-fashioned garment. Is it possible to understand whether the garment is cut and sew or semi-fashioned without looking at the inside seam? Yes, it is possible. Look carefully at the armhole area of the garment and observe the veil is deflecting parallel to the seam. There are also some thick marks formed at the same area. These marks are known as fully fashioned marks, and it is created when the loop moved and overlapped with an existing loop inside the knitting area. The double loop on one needle create the thick fashion marks. The fashion marks helps a customer to differentiate between cut and sew and more expensive and well finished semi-fashioned garments. To achieve fashioning, the machine operator has to stop the knitting. Then using a transfer tool, the operator has to move a set of loops from the edge of the panels towards the inside part of knitting area. This is time consuming, and the linking process to assemble panels together to make a garment is also slow and increase the labor cost. This explains the cost difference between a cut and sew garment and a semi-fashioned garment. Now, let's look at the third garment closely. You see fashion marks at the armhole, sleeve, shoulder and neck. That means this particular panel is fully shaped or better known as fully fashioned. Such fully fashioned panels can be assembled without cutting, hence required no overlock seam. This also reduces the wastage of raw material to virtually zero. Since the shaping area is much more than semi-fashion garment and linked seams are also more, the production cost of this garment would be more than that of semi-fashion garment. Now, when analyzing the fourth garment, to your surprise, you may not be able to identify any seams at all. The garment is a seamless one and is usually done with more expensive, fully computerized seamless knitting machines. Though seamless knitting is a complex process, it can be explained in simple way. The knitting starts as three different tubes as shown in the diagram. The one in the middle is the body and the two smaller ones on each side are the sleeves. As the loops of sleeve tubes move towards the center front of the garment, the tubes grow vertically and then merge into one at the armhole area. Continue knitting as a single tube till the shoulder height and then narrow to the neck measurement and then stop knitting. Your seamless garment is ready. Since the machine required for seamless knitting is far more expensive than the machines that are capable of knitting fully fashioned panels, the knitting cost for a seamless garment will be much more than that of a fully fashioned one. It will be interesting to know, since these machines can eliminate the requirement for cutting and sewing, about 20 seamless machines with a couple of operators can replace an entire factory with a workforce of 200. You have come to the end of this unit. To summarize, in this unit, you have learnt about the unique ability of a flat knitting machine to knit ready to assemble panels. You have also reviewed the advantages of such a technique. Thank you.